Well, thank you for joining us today on this webinar. It is my privilege as well as honor at the same time to have Julius, who is a very well-known person in the industry, be with us today at eShow's webinar, The Role of Event Technology in 2025. So, Julius, welcome. Always good to see you, my friend.
Hey, thank you for having me, Akshar, and welcome everybody. I hope we're going to get a lot of questions and interactions. Very excited for this.
So introductions, just really quick. Julius Dolores, the founder of Bold Push and a very influential, but also a leading voice in the events industry, as well as the event technology space. I'm Akshar Patel. I'm the VP of Corporate Strategy and Development for eShow Event Management Solutions. And let's just get into it. And a quick background of Julius. He's regarded as one of the most influential people in the events industry, pushing walls, pushing open doors, but also bringing the truth and the facts of what our industry is and so forth. He's the founder of Event MB, which exited to Skift in 2019, another great resource for travel, tourism, and events. But more so, Julius is just a good friend of many, including mine. He's a trusted resource, and eShow is honored to have Julius on our webinar because what we do at eShow is bring the reality to all events, and bringing people like Julius to eShow's webinars is just one of those strides that we want to make for all of our clients. So thank you there. And Julius, let's just kick it off. 2024 coming to an end and so forth. But if you had to say what's coming in 2025, and I know I'm kind of pushing on what you're going to do this Thursday as well, but that's what we do here as well. But give me a roundup in 30 seconds of 24, and maybe what we're looking at 25 in the event technology space.
Yeah, so obviously AI has been dominant in 24. It will keep being dominant in 25. Not necessarily from an event tech perspective yet, even though we've seen the first startups to be born, which is exciting because the new founders in event tech are building new tools. We're not there yet, to be honest. And probably we don't expect event tech per se to be within AI deep yet. But I'm excited about the use of tools that are in the public for that. Then the second part is all-in-one versus vertical. That's been dominant as a discussion through the year. It's very, I wouldn't say it's a polarizing discussion. There's no truth, right? It depends on a lot of factors. So excited for that. Then some patterns that impact technology, data, late registrations all over the place. That's been one of the biggest one that impacts also the way we use technology, the way we register people. So there's a lot of that. If I had to wrap it up, that's it. But also a lot of consolidation, a lot of understanding of how to use event technology, how to source it, how to implement it. There's, as the enterprise market is coming in, as the CMOs are coming into the events industry, which is not a traditional audience for the events industry, we're seeing a completely different way of using event tech tools, and so an evolution of the sourcing and implementation.
So let's touch upon this AI situation real quick, and then I've got a couple of other questions. But so to me personally, I want to say that very openly and honestly, to me personally, AI is a very big bucket of conversation, resources, and also ROI. So in our events industry, you've got scaled events all the way from the corporate powerhouses to association powerhouses to independent powerhouses. And the scalability is very different based on market needs, event needs, tech needs, etc. But maybe wrap up real quick of what you're thinking and seeing how AI is going to, affect all markets or all scales of events in the next year or coming years. That could be a blanket statement. There's some question on whether to go fully AI or introduce it in pieces and so forth. It also comes with a cost factor as well, right? That's what people are sensing. Too much technology, how much is it going to cost? But if you have your pulse on it, where's AI going 25 and beyond?
First off, I really like your approach to this question, actually, because there's so much hyping right now of AI. It's usual, right? Whenever there's a new type of technology,
Sure.
I'm sure all of the audience remembers social media coming in, virtual events at the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of hype, a lot of buzzwords, a lot of misunderstanding. It's natural, like it's how everybody reacts, and there's a lot of people that are always looking for the the next shiny thing. They jump on these bandwagons and they try to make business out of it. Businesses try to sell misinformation in some cases. Where do I come in? I spent a couple of 100 hours researching AI for 2 events that we did within our community, as well as a course that we launched a couple of weeks ago on AI for events. And so, well, on top of that, we ran some research within our community that we're going to show on Thursday to our event, and it's and we also bring together on the show floor. We'll say more about that, but some of this research, basically I asked a blank question: are you using AI or not? 75.4% are using AI right now of the answer. Now, let's put this in perspective. I've been doing analysis for event technology for the past 17 years in many forms: event registration, event app, engagement apps, social media for events, you name it. I've done a ton of analysis and reviews of platforms.
Yeah.
Never seen numbers like this ever. So in terms of adoption, usually the event planning community is not necessarily tech friendly. As I always say, you don't choose to work in events because you like technology. It's you usually want to be in events to have interaction with people, and therefore these numbers are pretty impressive, I must say. And so, is there a need from the event planning community to use these tools? Yes, there is. Why? Because it saves a lot of time. It gives you, that edge in terms of making processes faster, integrations, and so there's a lot of benefits that we're seeing in the market. How they're using it and how they're going to use it going forward. Marketing and content are the biggest uses right now. 55 and 54% we see in our data. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of data analysis is a close third, with 34% of event professionals using it. Operations is the fourth with 28%. And then, there's just a small component using it for contracts and registration, which is very interesting for me, because to me, if you ask me, where is the biggest disruption that we're going to see? Data is obviously one of the biggest one, I agree. Content and marketing, not as much. Not excited about that. I'm not excited about the output that I get from AI, from content and marketing. Now we're, I think, in a phase of misunderstanding of the tool, where a lot of people are going on ChatGPT and the likes, asking for social media plans, and the output is really, really bad quality. Everybody can tell is AI generated. And so a lot of brands are being destroyed this way, for lack of a better word, right there. Data and registration is where I'm excited about, because traditionally we don't make good use of data within the platforms. It's just there, just collected. We don't know what to do with it. And so I'm excited about finally data becoming accessible to everybody, because you can query hundreds, thousands of feedback forms, make use of it. Registration-wise, complex registration forms, complex registration building, I want to see that coming, the AI coming to event tech platforms, so that process becomes prompt-based, template-based. It's easier for people to build very complex registration flows.
So one thing that we've seen, not only at eShow, but I think a lot of our industry peers and industry, articles are saying this, that the early bird is no more. It's all about the late bird. And we're seeing that registrations are typically coming in 45 days or less to get to your target markets, or your targeted numbers, I should say, right? So let's put ourselves in the show organizer standpoint, but also put our shoes in the stakeholder standpoint. What data is going to be so useful at that 45 days or less, or 45 days out, for someone to say, I'm going to hit my goals, my KPIs, but like you said, the content side, the operational side, the contract side, what part of this data is so crucial for show organizers to really implement technology going forward, or saying, hey, I need to change this going forward as well?
Yeah, so the numbers are quite shocking. We're looking at 22% between the week before the event and the day of the event of registration. We're looking at 40% 2 weeks out. 40% 2 weeks out.
Wait,
That's
hold on. You're saying 40% of the actual total attendance comes 2 to 3 weeks out?
yes, that's
That's
from
even less than 45
data.
days.
That's from our data we're seeing, and other research that I've just went through, and I'm going to discuss together in person also for the people that are going to be with us. But like, there's more about this. There's like the research agrees. 2 weeks out, actually 33%. More than like 4 weeks out, it's something like 40%. So this is incredible. This is for Victor asking in the chat, across the board, regardless of the type of event. Obviously, some people say virtual events have more. Not really. I've been cross-referencing data. Virtual, in-person, hybrid, doesn't matter. These patterns are across the board. They're happening across the board. This is like a revolution happening in the events industry, right? Under our eyes. Like, we've never dealt with something like this. Yes, early birds working, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. So we've been seeing that impact across the board. So there's a lot of that. Now, two things, right? In terms of the data point and then the registration itself, right? So the data points, predictive analytics is what I'm looking for right now. Like, okay, look at my historical data from 23 and 24, where this pattern already started. Looking into 25, I want to know what happened. Like, what can I expect from my registration patterns going into next year? By looking at cross-referencing. Sometimes I'm going to get a little bit technical here, but this is what we work with our clients. So I'm treating everybody as our clients right now. What I would do is, like, we're going into the data, we're cross-referencing the campaigns that you did, social media campaigns, email marketing, ads, cross-referencing that with registration data, cross-referencing it and immediately getting the patterns through AI in terms of saying, okay, with that campaign, we got those results. Well, that's what happened. Like, sometimes some platforms do that. Some platforms don't do that. That data is sometimes scattered all around. So this is like the importance of integrations going forward, I would say, and this is like a whole different topics. So like, we want to make a topic, we want to make sure that we have as much integration with our sales, with our like marketing software, MarTech, as much as possible, right? So then the next step is the registration form itself. And, we've been having some heated conversations online about this, because my feeling is that we're, a lot of people that build event registration forms, they never sold anything online, and that's a problem. And I feel that if you're selling tickets online or registering people, even if it's a free event, you're actually looking for a conversion. And so whenever you're looking for a conversion online, you're entering the realm of e-commerce. You're not an event planner anymore. You're there to close the sale. That's your marketing and sales moment. You have to prioritize that. That means that your registration form should be shorter, should be close to the point. You should really collect only the information that matters. Shorten it. I've seen 7-8 pages registration forms. That cannot go on, because people want to make quick action. And if you lose that moment, you're going to experience a lot of the late pattern.
So you've said a couple of things just in, cloud words that I would take. And before I get into that, I just want to acknowledge, Wendy, you're absolutely right on the chat that this type of registration trend affects the operational piece of it, and as well as the attendance piece of it. But to your point, the attrition on the hotels, the F&B has gone up, right? Just about a year ago, I don't know if the stat is still live, but just raw chicken was up by 18% post-COVID. And, if you go to an event, meals, F&B, all of that cost has gone up. So truly we can understand what Wendy's talking about here. But
And
just go
actually,
back to,
from a cost perspective, sorry if I jump in, but
Yeah, go ahead.
you're serving me an ace here. I guess, there's like what research is saying for 25, it's that the cost per attendee is going up 50%.
50% going
Yeah.
up. Okay. Well, I'm sure many of our event peers on the webinar are either about to flip a desk or
data or die. That's what it is. For
data
me.
or die. That's a new one. I love it. Hey, but just coming back to some of the things that you just said in some cloud words. So at eShow, what we've been doing lately is when we get an RFP in, and obviously there's either one or two people that have pushed that RFP out, whether it's someone from the event side or the technology side or whatnot. And we just went through this with a client of ours, but we actually want a couple of people to be on those calls from the beginning. That someone, and this goes either association or corporate or whatever business portfolio you're in. We want someone from the events team. We want someone from the membership or the engagement side. We want someone from the sales biz dev side, and we want someone from the marketing side. And the reason we have done this and have requested for this is that we saw that the conversation, when you have all these stakeholders on the call from the get-go to understand what event tech really is, they all have ownership over it in different verticals, right? And I think that's one of the most important things that the events industry needs to focus on, to say is when you're looking at implementing event technology, you have to bring the right people in the room at the table to make sure it's worthwhile, because we thrive here at eShow by being a one-stop shop platform, or we can do a la carte as well, which I know we'll get into that conversation here. But tell me a little bit, do you agree, do you disagree, or have you seen this trend that more stakeholders need to get in on this?
I have a question for you first, actually.
Okay,
is there, like, are you seeing specifically in the association vertical an increased pressure in the past 2-3 years because of increased competition? Some planners, like large portfolio owners, like invading verticals that usually association used to be very well positioned in, because like we're seeing that across the board. I've had 3 clients in the past year, associations that are struggling, and obviously the event tech piece becomes so important. So it'd be very important for me to validate with you, because like obviously you have such a great population of associations working at each show.
Yeah, so we've seen an increase of this because of a couple of reasons. Before COVID, and sometimes I hate that COVID is still a big topic, but that changed the world, right? So before COVID, associations were typically running off of an AMS and could do multiple things off of it. Post-COVID, a majority of the associations really understood more the value of data and how it needs to integrate, or how it needs to flow across many streamlines. So we're getting more and more questions about how do I make everything flow through one dashboard, because teams have also gone lean as well. Unfortunately, we lost a lot of good professionals within the COVID situation, whether it's finding new work or whatnot. But the teams in general have become more lean. And if you're sitting at a desk and trying to work with 10 systems, that's where eShow has progressed to say you can utilize one system, integrate to multiple verticals, but have one dashboard. So event organizer can go in at any given time. The CEO or the board or the chairman or chairwoman, etc., that these reports are going to, if they're run or the governance runs like that, everything is on one dashboard. So to your point, yes, we've seen that, and we're offering that against some of our competitors, but we're also seeing the value for it.
I hear you.
Our show organizers, whether they will start with one module, like let's take content, for example, because that was a high percentage. They said, let me start with content management. Then they added speaker management. Then they're adding abstract management. So everything gets compressed. So to your point, yes, we're seeing that.
So here's my take on it. What I'm seeing, I'm gonna move the conversation a little bit also between the all-in-one versus vertical solution here as well. I feel that some associations with an incredible pressure to bring in revenue from an attendee standpoint are choosing like very specific vertical solutions that just do the marketing piece right, or they just do some specific piece right. What I'm discovering as well, like though, it's a lot of those clients, they start with that and then they start like going through the process of planning the event, and they're saying, oh, but we're also talking to that company, we're talking to that company, and we want to integrate the engagement piece, and we want to integrate the badge piece, and we want to integrate, and all of a sudden the cost is going up. And like, I'm like, yeah, just pick an only one at this stage. Like that makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, yes, in some cases you're going to have good integrations, very good integration. That's like very rare from what I've seen. Very rare. This is a marketing, stunt from a lot of vertical companies to launch marketplaces that actually do not materialize in practice, because like the integration is going to be sloppy and it's going to cost a lot of money. Plus you're going to pay the extra tool. This is something that people don't realize. Like, oh yeah, it's integrated, but from a cost perspective, you're paying multiple tools, and that doesn't work. Now, right. On the other end, obviously you have all-in-one, where you have all under one dashboard. Now, the challenge for the all-in-one platforms, and I'm sure Isho, like we reviewed it for several projects this year, you're doing a great job in that. But like, the challenge for you all is, how do we keep adding that functionality that the market wants, right, while keeping everything together? So, it's almost like people are asking you to be vertical and all-in-one at the same time, right? Because they want that specific functionality that they may find somewhere else. Or sometimes, like, it's just an issue of user experience. Some all-in-one platforms just do not deliver, right?
Yeah.
If we look at that piece, some people, like, I spent, for a client, I spent 4 hours of my very precious time to just find some reports in the dashboard. Like, can it really happen in 2025? Like, from some some all-in-one event platforms, the user experience is really stuck in 2018, 2017. We need to move it into the 25 age where we're at right now.
So kind of staying on the same route of, costs and so forth, but more so automation. What technology or what tasks right now in our industry are ripe for automation? I think registration is being one of those. Or an example, for example, is that we were just in London for Event Tech Live, Raju Patel, the CEO, and myself. When we landed at Heathrow and have to go through customs and immigration, we're all accustomed to, 20 boxes or 20 cubes with a person behind the desk, stamping it like, they're mad at the world, like everyone should hear that stamp, etc. But when we got to Heathrow, I loved it. There was 20 kiosks. You stand in line very, very diligently, very quietly when you're already sleepy anyway, so you're not going to talk to your neighbor. But you just keep on going in, you scan your passport, less than 10 seconds, you're in the country and you go.
Yeah.
Let's bring it back to our industry. What tasks, what menial laborious tasks in our industry are ripe for automation?
Yeah, for sure. And you anticipated a little bit of it, because obviously whatever the backend, the building of the platform, we want to see more of that, right? We need all the platforms to do like Isho is doing in creating those opportunities for automation of repetitive tasks that are time consuming. Obviously, you have to reconcile the fact with 75% of event planners go to ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or whatever and say, make me a business plan for my business. And they get, boom, a full business plan. Then they go on some platforms and they're like, they have to enter everything manually. And it's like, this is such a dissonance in the experience that we need to solve for that as an event tech providers. We need to offer a better user interface that helps individuals to create on the go, to be fast, to roll out. Because eventually, you can't ask people to get a certification to run a software in 2025. Come on, we need better than that. I'm sure, your team works on that. And this is what we want. Or we need the support of people, right? That's as important, right? The automation sometimes means having someone on the team that is actually helping out. Because, what is the problem with the events industry? Every event is different. Even here in the chat, you see people saying, this is never going to happen to my event. And some people say, oh, yes, it's happening to my event. So you see, there's always this incredible difference because of the type of events that we run, because of the fragmentation of the industry. So finding an MVP, people have to realize this. Event professionals, so passionate and so demanding with event tech platforms, you have to understand that finding a unique solution to solve for the events industry, it's almost impossible. There's never going to be an MVP that does everything in the events industry. And so this is where event tech companies fill in with support. And then we need that. We need a lot of that and we need like as much as possible. Now, on top of that, obviously you mentioned it, right? You mentioned checking in at the airport, like checking in into a country in the UK with, scanning of the passport, facial recognition, you're in. That's a very similar scenario where we check in at events. We want to see that too, right? To speed that process up, very large events, thousands and thousands of attendees. We cannot wait in line in 2025. That doesn't happen anymore. Like, we need to go fast in. And so whatever you can do, from the badge printing to facial recognition to whatever, to make that process as fast as possible, that matters, because the welcome matters. That's one of the key trends for the events. Like, that's when your attention is super high when you're entering an event, where you're like pumped, you're seeing all the details. To wait in line for hours sometimes, it's a problem. And it's like, it's an event design problem, but it's an event tech problem sometimes, right? So you have to be able to, cater for that need and like impress people when they come to your event immediately with a badge printing solution that is super fast and reliable. Enter a few data, here's your badge, or facial recognition, whatever. Like, work on making it as fast as possible. Then there's stuff like integration with tools. It's one of the biggest ones that we want to see, because like, we want platforms, even all-in-one platforms, we want them to talk to outside tools. We want them to talk to the Salesforce, to the Marketo, to the HubSpot of case. And so those integration pieces, it's one of the ones that I'm most excited about in 2025, because like middleware tools like Zapier's and the like, we want that type of integration through APIs. We want tools to talk to each other in an easy fashion, so that I can use eShow, but eShow can talk to the other tools that I use within my platform, my enterprise.
So I typically don't like to answer my own question, but I'm going to probably do that here. What we've done with eShow is two key partnerships that we've just inked, and they're fully out in the market. So one is with PopShap, and I'll quickly tell you what we're doing with PopShap. Is that we are now running large kiosk or tablet kiosks at the registration counters, where you don't really need multiple temp staff to kind of check you in, right? The airline industry has been doing this for a while, that you don't really interact with anyone until you get to the gate. So if you've been pre-regged, it's a QR code that you scan on these tablets, or these actually life-size tablets, I want to say, and your badge spits out. So what does that do for a couple of things? It's reduced your temp staff cost. It's reduced the time in training, but you've utilized technology where it's faster for the attendee to get checked in and so forth. The second thing we're also doing, Julius, there, and to the audience, is you can take these check-in kiosks and put them at your satellite hotels. Think about, you're getting off of a cross-country trip or a 3-hour flight, go to your hotel, throw your luggage in, and you've got to go to the convention center 5 blocks away, or which seems 2 miles away. Why can't you just check in at your hotel with your stay? So we're utilizing that. So thank you to PopShap and for that partnership. And more information, feel free to reach out to our team. We'd be happy to walk you through that. Secondly, Ryan, these are both hardwires as well as Wi-Fi kiosks, and we're happy to talk to you about that on a separate chat. So feel free to contact us.
Sorry, Akshar, this is like the kiosk you put in hotels as well for self check-in. Did I get it right?
Yeah, you're about 6 foot-ish or so. I'm about 6 foot-ish. It's about 6'1", or etc. Large tablet. It's also revenue generating. If you wanted to sell sponsorships on it or ads on it, it's basically paying for itself. But we've just created automation. We've reduced touch points, etc.
I need to add this to my presentation. This is so cool. I'm thinking like, other than the hotel, airports as well. As soon as you land, if you attend CES in Vegas, as soon as you land in Vegas, you have like registration badge pickup, but like automating it, like that, this is the next level.
And thank you, Chris, for using it at Holiday Showcase. The second partnership that we've inked is with Shepherd as one of the founding or at least popular GSCs. The reason we just inked that partnership, and we've seen that the sponsorship side, the exhibitor side, and that whole journey has been antiquated for so many years, from selling a booth to sponsorship to fulfillment to registration to trade show mapping, exhibit maps, etc. So we've created that partnership where an exhibitor, for example, because let's just be honest, the monies that support most of these events are coming from the exhibitor side or the sponsorship side or the attendee side. And to create that one-stop journey for an exhibitor to say, I'm going to go to Shepherd to get all my exhibit stuff done. They've partnered with eShow for all my registration needs. If I've got 24 booth team members coming, I can do it in one step there. We also do we also design the floor maps as well. So when we take a floor map and put it into, let's say, Shepherd's exhibitor toolkit or that toolbox, whatever they use, everything is seamlessly integrated. So what that's doing, it's turning sales around faster at pre-sales, but also during that journey. So these are two of many partnerships that we're signing on to automate, but also create an experience and a journey like no other for years to come. And there's a chat here. I think I got it as a private message from David. David, I would love to talk to you about your question offline. We can do it. I don't want to ignore anyone's chat as much as I can, but I will definitely connect with you after as well.
Akshar, let me say something about this. Two things. First, congratulations. This is exactly what we need from event tech companies, like thinking about the touch points, the experience. I kept on saying, and the biggest trend in 2025 for me personally, the one that resonated the most with my community, with the 10 million people that read my content on LinkedIn in 2024, is moment planning, and like how we plan every single moment in an event, how you break down a whole event experience in individual moments, and how you surprise and delight at every touch point. That is changing the game. You're not event planners anymore. You're moment planners. And so if you think as moment planners, your idea is like to use every piece of tech possible to make the experience better, not to complicate it, but to make it better. And this is exactly the type of partnerships that we need first. Second, I need 2 pictures of that Akshar, because I need to add them to my presentation for Thursday. Please send them.
I can probably already tell you our marketing team on the background is probably putting this together for you. So before the end of the day, I promise you'll have that picture. Julius, what data is the most important data right now for future decisions to be made? We've seen a lot of shows flourish or grow exponentially. Unfortunately, we've also seen shows either downsize or unfortunately they're no longer in the market. But what data can someone like eShow, because I think that eShow is the first touch of any data. Our team, our services are like the bellman or bellwoman at a hotel. We're the first touch point, etc. But we want to now utilize the data for our show organizers and stakeholders to make better decisions. So if you had to say three data points that are so crucial right now, what are they?
So again, very, very difficult to answer this question, because you see, there's going to be people in the chat that say, oh no, this is not the case for us, or yes, this is the case for us. So, again, I come from a perspective of research analysis, metadata, that it's at an industry level. And so your event may be different, right? It will be different. But this is the problem as well, right? When you know your data, you know your event, you don't need to read research. Well, I mean, you kind of do to see what's coming next, emerging trends. But if your event is like registering in the same span of what it used to be pre-pandemic, fantastic. Some events are. I was attending an event of administrative professionals. 80% of those registered early bird because they are planners. They like to plan months in advance, of course, so it makes sense. So this is important. Like when you approach event tech research and all of these data, please try to have an open mind, think about the industry as a whole, and then your event. Now, the second point here is what type of data. I want to take a step back actually on that, because the real problem right now is who's collecting data, who's not collecting data. That's the first point for me. I don't start working on any consulting project unless we have a data environment set up properly within the tool, which means, are we using any sales tools like Salesforce and the likes? They need to be integrated with the event tech platform. Otherwise, to prove ROI, because like this is the problem, right? This is the, like, whenever someone subscribes to my newsletter, they get an automated question. What's your number one challenge? I got thousands of responses, Akshar. Number one answer, ROI. ROI is always the number one answer in the events industry. It seems like we're missing that piece that puts together that experience we live offline with the context of companies, associations, whatever, right? You need to prove that whatever you're doing with your event is driving business back or is driving value in some form. So if you don't have a setup, an environment, a data environment set up with proper integrations with the tools that are closer to revenue, then you're going to have an issue, right? So we were working with this with a client, and we were choosing the platform for them. And I told them, like, before we choose the platform, you need to tell me what is the requirements that we have here for the integration with Salesforce. Because if we start working on the event tech piece and we don't have a fallback, nothing is going to happen. So I want to make sure that everybody has a complete funnel covered here in terms of integration of tech tools and complete collection. Now, then we can be a little bit more sophisticated, Akshar, here, like especially when we're thinking about stuff like trade show booths and stuff like that. We're now able to measure impressions, facial analysis, and stuff like that. We can have more complex data on that. Do we need that? In some cases, we need that, especially if we do a lot of content. In some other cases, it's just the basics of what we're doing. It's just people like to talk about return on experience, return on objectives. I don't know, maybe I'm old, but I like the classics. For me, it's like the money I put in, the money I get out. That's what works for me. In some other contexts, yes, you have different objectives, but for the most part, like especially right now in this environment we're living in with such high costs, such like pressure, so much competition, because we've had the biggest 3 years ever in the events industry in a row. People want to see, like, people want to do events. We have so much competition. So you have to be able to prove that whatever you're doing, whatever your plan is delivering eventually return. That can be 6 to 9 months out, right? With different touch points. So you have to be able to have a funnel that measures the people coming in, getting in touch with the brand, or whatever type of show or event you're doing. And then it's bringing it back to how much did you drive back to the exhibitors? You said it, Akshar. A show without exhibitors today is struggling. People go to events mostly today for commerce. This is what research say. They don't go there to do networking. They don't go there to meet new people. They don't go there for content. They also go there for that. But the number one reason is commerce. We want to close business at events, because closing business online is a nightmare with whatever is happening all around us. Social media, AI, so confusing. Where's the trust? How do you close $1 million worth of business? You meet in person. That's the most trusted channel in the events industry. Therefore, we need to be able to track everything that is happening. The example that you made at a show booth, that is going to give me the accurate data, the pipeline velocity, right? The pipeline collection. Those are the KPIs I'm looking at. Like, how is this event? Like, first off, how many leads did we collect? Did you know one piece of data for everybody here? And I'm going to pause. One piece of data. The best performing channel for 3 years in a row, 22, 23, and 24, has been events as a lead generation channel. In-person events, number one channel out of all the channels that you can think of, online, offline, whatever. Second channel, webinars, virtual events. Top two, it's event driven. Okay, so if we understand this, then all of our mentality has to go into, okay, how many leads are we collecting? What pipeline did we generate? How we accelerated the pipeline? What was the ROI at the end of it? If you focus on these fours, there's more than this for sure, but if you focus on these fours, your career is going to skyrocket.
That's some great insight for sure, Julius. I know we're teeing up here with about 20 minutes left, and we'll open up to Q&A here just in a little bit. So if any questions in the chat want to start populating, we can grab those as well. But Julius, with Expo right around the corner and so forth, and 25 seems to be a pretty strong year. I haven't heard of any softening of the markets, etc. Right? With 2025 around the corner, where do you think the focus of event technology is going to be predominantly around? Is it AI? I've heard things are on RFID, the badge situation. Badges they play multiple roles, but how can you track with badges? But if, again, looking at 25, if you had to say these are 2 to 3 really focal points, both from a show organizer, but also from my end as a service and supplier, what are those 2 to 3 big points that get you, giddily at night to say 25 is coming, 25 is coming?
For sure. Again, I feel that, everybody has opinions about these, right? But data trumps opinion all the time. Like, data all my life. I start with data because, like, again, we could say whatever. And like we just asked our audience, and this is like 320 top event professionals from across the board, complete diversity of type of shows, online, offline, conferences, trade shows, everything and anything. And also I cross-referenced that research with other pieces of research out there to validate, right? Because what you'll find in the events industry is that doing research is so difficult because you never find big samples. Like, it's very, very complicated to get the real data. So I'm going to close on that. But like the point here for you is 54% of the spend in event technology is going to registration. So as much as we like to think about engagement and polls and this and that, registration is what matters. That product, that delivery is so core to how we operate in events, whether it's free, paid for. That's like the biggest dominant players in event technology. That's what they do. Like they don't do anything else. And so as much as we like to have nice to have tools like little engagement pieces and like photo booths and the like, yeah, all great. Don't get me wrong, fantastic. But registration is where our attention should go in terms of how event technology platforms need to deliver better registration. We need your help to fix the registration crisis, the late patterns. Like help us with better forms, better user experience that convert better, right? So tell us what forms convert better based on your data. We need to know. Like that's what we expect from event tech companies. From an event planner perspective, focus on what matters. Like we have a lot of shiny object syndrome in the events industry. We go from one cool thing to the next because events are novelty driven and we try to impress our audience all the time. Also, there's a technology change pattern that we need to get rid of, like jumping from one platform to the next. That has to stop. Try to settle from one platform, embrace it, do a good selection piece, stay on it as much as possible. Try to use it for your use case. Obviously, if your use case changes, you can change it. But like if your use case is that, there's no point to say, oh, I'm bored with this. I should find a different platform. Come on. Like, this is not, a fashion piece. This is like so important. And so we need to stick to one platform as much as possible because like then porting all the data, it's going to add to the cost issue, to the short staffing issue, to a lot of issues going on right now with the industry that we don't get a hold of. And it's like so tough to control for the same people that are doing a million things, that are thinking about the security of people. They're thinking about the mini burgers that they're going to have in the F&B and stuff like that. Now you're adding more complexity. No, keep it simple. Try to make good decisions and try to research. Also, when I see people, that has to stop in 25. I'm going to close with that. People on social media saying, oh, do you have any recommendation from a registration platform? When I read that, my mind explodes. I'm like, how can you select a registration platform, such a core part of your event, based on opinions from people? Like, do the research, like scope it out. Talk to everybody, like, hire someone to do the selection for you, but do not rely on someone's random opinion that may have a completely different sets of events from yours. And that's going to be so flawed from the start.
That's a really interesting point. typically we are a word of mouth industry, but in some cases, word of mouth doesn't work because everyone's needs are different, right? So I appreciate you saying that. And going. I have one last question, and then let's open it up to Q&A, because this was a note that I got a couple of weeks ago from a friend of mine in the events industry. They want to move forward with a lot of technology, which is great. And they recognize that, yes, maybe they have to do it in buckets given financial resources and so forth. But they're up against an antiquated decision-making leadership, either team or board, that says yes or no to the financial spend or the enhancement spend. That conversation in 2024, unfortunately, still exists. If you had to give any type of friendly advice to help convince those that are not bought in or sold on technology does fulfill other needs than human resources, how would you say that to the world?
Yeah, I get a lot of people looking at me weird when I give this answer, because it's kind of, it's not the answer that they want. It's not the answer that a lot of people want on this, unfortunately. But I've been working on so many projects with associations and with clients as well, where they need to convince the upper management for
Right.
specific decisions. The pattern is always the same. The leadership says no when there's no business plan attached to whatever you're doing. Because, in some cases, they're still going to say no to that. But then they're saying no to data. They're saying no to a business plan. A data-backed business plan, versus an opinion. Again, you as a boss want to have an opinion. I would recommend to move on from that company, because they're not going to go anywhere with their events program. I feel that the real bosses that understand events as a tool, they understand that when you show up with a business plan that is data backed, we can have all the opinions that we want. But this is this is the best bet that you have in facing the future and proving that this is going to happen, as opposed to, oh, we think that we should. So there's a lot of planners that say, oh, yes, but we need the event tech. We need a better event tech. I'm like, why do you need it? What is the plan for it? What are you going to do with it? How are you going to pay back? We need to be more business people, especially if we want to have that seat at the table that we talk a lot in the events industry. We're always seen as party planners and whatever. If we're not able to have those conversations with the management and say, listen, this is my data, this is what I project and recommend, then we can have a discussion how are we going to do it. But this is it. And so if you say no to this, you're saying no to data. And a lot of leaders are going to be challenged by that, I feel. And this is how we convince boards. This is how we come up. We're very detailed and specific. I spoke to Time Magazine CEO, Chief Events Officer. The way he got a massive amount of budget and he brought revenue up by 34% was by creating a business plan, not by saying, oh, events are cool and we need to do events. That doesn't work.
That's some bold statements.
Yeah, you see it.
Yeah, no pun intended, right? No pun intended. So I'm going to move over to Q&A real quick here. So there's one question here that we have from David. He is asking, should the AI focus on analytics of data for event management as a starting point? Is eShow in a position to improve these product analytics for customers? Absolutely. So I think we've touched a little bit upon where eShow is going with the AI focus. And we've also recognized that AI is a very large bundle of where you want to focus. So David, we're absolutely going to be focusing in on this for 2025. I think I would encourage you to maybe reach out to our sales team to kind of further the conversation, as Julius and I kind of mentioned, but more so Julius, that every event or every client or every need is different. So what you may need for your analytics of the data from an AI focus, we'd be happy to kind of talk to you about that as well. The other question here is, do you see a use for AI in abstract submission for events that offer live educational lectures? If so, how? I'll punt this over to you.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, first off, on the data piece that David asked, be careful, be extremely careful right now from a company perspective, association perspective, do not share any data with these platforms. Like always anonymize. Think about that, please. Always make that disclaimer before you jump on like uploading a Excel spreadsheet with all the emails of your customers in there. Please do anonymize as much as possible, because there's no guarantee that the data is going into places we don't know. We don't know what is going to happen. So please just make sure that you anonymize everything. Still, you're going to get a lot of very good insight, even if it's anonymous, right? So that's one point. Second point for Joe, it depends on what you want to do with it, right? So what is the purpose of using AI for abstract submission here? Is it just a matter of sorting through all of the abstracts and like finding like the ones that are more exciting? Absolutely, yes, right? I would use projects in Claude right now to do something like that, and like have projects is a repository where you can upload a lot of content right now and have almost a database that you can query. And so you upload, you strip it off, you try to keep the files as small as possible, upload everything in projects in Claude, and then start querying it. What are the most exciting and innovative abstract? I'm riffing here. I don't know what is the purpose of using it, but like, you can query incredible amount of information and get the information that matters. This is the groundbreaking point. Stuff that used to take days and hours, you can do in a few minutes. And so that's what I would recommend.
So just to piggyback off what you just said, Julius, eShow actually has an abstract module that we offer as well for all the life science, events, or any events that uses a paper submission or abstract submission, for a couple of reasons. Again, we were seeing that the integration to multiple platforms was daunting, but as anyone that knows abstract, it's a crucial piece of that event, or a crucial piece of someone else's livelihood, whether it's going to make or break it. So we do have a portal that does abstract submission. It can talk to our other portals, whether it's speaker, content, etc. But again, to that partnership, even with the GSC, like the Shepherd partnership, if your abstract was to be chosen to display physically on a poster or electronically, all of that information can get pushed from our abstract portal back to, if you're using Shepherd as your GSC. So again, we've just simplified the whole process for committees or a reviewer or a submitter, or even the back end, the execution teams, to say, we're just pulling from one set of source and we're going to get it right the first time.
I love it. And that we're talking about hours and hours of work, that becomes so seamless and integrated with everything. Abstract submission is always like a pain point in a lot of software. The integration with abstract submission is like such a rare occurrence in a lot of software. If it's done not to this complexity. So I would say, yeah, absolutely. Think about using only one. If you have like that complex processes like part of the game, then whenever you're going to outsource it, people don't think about the time that it takes with an external tool to just like go through, all the submissions and all of that without having an integrated format. So yeah, sometimes we don't compute the time that it takes to do things in the cost for the Eventech Pro platform. Sometimes we just think, oh, that platform is going to be cheaper, I'm just going to use that. And then you spend twice as much of the time because there's no integration. You have to spend the time exporting, importing, and making all those beautiful tasks.
Well, I don't see any more questions at the moment. I'll give it another 30 seconds while we wrap up here. But, Julius, this has been phenomenal. It's always good to catch up with you. I know I saw you recently in Atlanta. I'm going to see you next week. So for those of you that are coming out to Expo, Julius is going to be at our booth in 1216 at 2 p.m. PST time. So make sure you're on Pacific time there, not any other time zones. But he's going to, kind of elaborate more and more on what we heard here, but more in a live setting. So if you're at Expo, please come by definitely on December 17th at 2 p.m. to join us with Julius. Additionally, he's got his event this Thursday. So if you have not subscribed to Bold Push content as well as his newsletters, feel free to do that, because, again, we want to be great partners, Bold Push and vice versa. So
appreciate that.
Absolutely. Anywhere we can convene great leaders and great minds, let's do that.
And let
The
me
other,
say, like, for the people that are gonna be at Expo, this is gonna be the first time I'm gonna present in person the new research that we've done. All of the work that we're gonna do online on Thursday, but there's gonna be a more sort of specific version of it with just the data that we have referenced during this. And you're gonna get the slides as well. You're gonna get everything for it. So there's a ton of value if you're at Expo. Do not miss this session. I'm looking forward to seeing you there. And make sure you register with the QR code, because I know there's a lot of people already registered and the booth is not gigantic. So we want to make sure that we fit everybody in. So make sure that you get that spot.
so with a couple minutes left, Julius, let's end it on a light note. What's the holiday plans for Julius and family and friends?
Hey, listen, I'm gonna pause a little bit on the content. I'm gonna let my brain just relax a little bit. That's the only time of the year where I don't have to write 4 to 5 LinkedIn posts per week, so I can chill a little bit. I can relax my brain and let the smoke come out, and then after that, I'm gonna restart in 2nd of January with like banging with the content, with the newsletter, with the LinkedIn posts, with our community, and all of it, and of course, I'm going to close it in LA with you, Akshar, and the team. That's going to be pretty amazing. We're going to be shooting video there as well. So if you are there, please stop with us. We're going to ask you some questions as well. I'm going to put them in the video so that everybody can see you. So make sure to reach out. Make sure to come and say hi, introduce yourself. We're family now. So let's make it happen.
Absolutely. So as always, Julius, thank you so much for being on the webinar today with eShow. Happy holidays to you and your family. But looking forward to seeing you next week. And to those on the webinar, if you're going to be at Expo, as Julius mentioned, definitely reach out either through the Expo app. As many of you know or don't know, eShow is supplying all of the backend technology from registration to the app and other technology at Expo as an exclusive provider. So happy to do a behind the scenes tour as well. It's the best way to see a product in action right there. So feel free to reach out. So once again, thank you to the industry. Thank you to Julius. Thank you to everyone that's been on this call, but also a heartfelt thank you to all of our clients for trusting us with their success and their events. So Julius, have a great afternoon, my friend. See you next week, and let's do it.